Hey everybody, I'm Andrew from Aero-Gro, and today I'm really happy to bring you a cool video about this pH recalibration kit. Now, if you're watching this, it's because you just received this, and I've been selling this for a few years now, and it really was sort of an afterthought. I didn't think it was really going to take off, but it's becoming a thing. So since it's becoming a thing, I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at it and give you some of the answers to the most commonly asked questions from customers, and also some tips and tricks, both from customers and then also from myself, about how to get the most usage out of your new kit. All right, so here we go. Let's dig in. What do we have in this box of goodies? We have, to start with, 15 packs of pH recalibration powder. Now, this is in the levels, the 4.00, 6.86, and 9.18 that your 5 and 1 meter uses if it's from Aero-Gro. But there are other meters for which this kit will be okay to use. It's just whatever meter you're using it on has to use the same scale. As long as it does, this kit will work. All right. So you have 5 of each of those powders, the different levels, and they're powdered form, and you just break them up a little bit. Well, I'll show you that later. Okay, we have our 3 jars, 2, 3, and you'll notice that they are labeled. You have that's 686, that goes in the middle. I always start from left to right. I go to the 4.00 to the left, and then 686, and then 9.18. That's how I do it. You can do it however you want. And then we have the 250 milliliter beaker. Actually, technically speaking, this is 300 milliliters on the line right there. But I only ask you to fill it to the 250. That's what these packs require. And you'll see that in the instructions on the pack. It'll say add 250 milliliters of distilled water to the jar. That's what you have here. So let me just read these off one at a time. I'm just going to cover them and go down the list. Like I said, these are the most commonly asked questions. Oh yeah, the first one's kind of funny. Why plastic? I had a lady customer call me, and she's like, I just paid really good money for this kit, and you sent me plastic jars? What is wrong with you? I said, hold on. Hold on. The jars are chosen for some very specific reasons. First of all, they're polyethylene phthalate. Polyethylene phthalate. There it is. They're PET. Polyethylene phthalate has some characteristics that are very good for us. First of all, it is a rather rigid plastic. It can form good threads on something like a jar, so it's good for things that are going to be stored longer term. Also, it's food safe, and it is chemically inert, meaning it's not going to affect whatever's in it, or vice versa. So very good to use for cosmetics or anything that has any kind of a chemistry to it that you don't want to affect by the container. That's where you want a container like this. Also, it was chosen because of its size. This is exactly 250 milliliters, which is exactly what we need for our powders, so that when we're storing them, there's very little air space on the top, or head space it's called, and that makes the solution last a bit longer. Also, obviously, they're plastic. They're not gonna break. They're a lot lighter weight, easier to ship. And there's so many advantages. There's so many advantages to using these. And I tried to explain that. Hopefully she forgave me after that, but who knows. Also, you'll notice that in the lids, there is a foam insert. The foam insert is to create a watertight seal between the jar and the cap. And for us, that's important because it's literally a liquid, and you can store it fairly long term with that in place. You just need to make sure that that is in place, because without that, it could evaporate or spill or leave the jar in a variety of different ways, and we don't want that. Okay, how often do I have to recalibrate? Well, it depends. Don't you hate that as an answer? It depends. All right, here's what that means. If you're testing, let's say, something very highly acidic like orange juice, for example, it's very hot out here today, so I'm going to drink out of my polyethylene phthalate jar here. What is it? Polyethylene. This probably is the same type of plastic. Chosen because it's good to store water in. Okay, let's say you're testing orange juice every day. very acidic, and you're testing it once or twice a day, and this is what you do. You're an orange juice farmer or something. Okay, fair enough. You should probably be recalibrating once a week, I would say. That's a very strong acid that you're testing, and it's making the meter swing. It's also orange juice. It's going to coat the probe a bit. It's going to throw your reading off just a bit. I would be recalibrating once a week in that case. Now, let's say you're just testing the water coming out of your reverse osmosis filtration system. So let's say you have a 5-stage filtration system in your house under your kitchen sink or something. Then you're only testing water. The water that's coming out of that filtration system is very neutral. That's the whole point, right? So it's not going to even test the meter very much, if that makes sense. It would, even if you're testing, in case of the filters in your house, you're testing maybe once every month or 2 months or 3 months or something like that. So in that case, I would say once every 6 months to once every year, you might want to calibrate the meter. I mean, really, that would all would require. If you're testing, similarly, if you're testing an aquarium, which basically is just clean water, I'd say once every quarter, once every 6 months, depends. Maybe a little more often if you want to maintain absolute accuracy. But again, I mean, there would be very, very light usage of the meter. So it really depends how much and what you're testing. And keep in mind that what you're testing does it coat the probe or does it not coat the probe? Does it leave a residue on what touches it, right? That's kind of something to ask yourself. If you think it will leave a residue, another thing to keep in mind is after you've used your meter and done all your testing and whatever, rinse it off in some distilled water before you put the cap back on and put it away. Keep it nice and clean, and that will help the probe last a lot longer and maintain its calibration. The dirtier it gets and the harder it gets used, the more often you need to calibrate. Hopefully that answers the question. But if not, you can always give me a call and I'll walk you through it on the phone, 610-657-8800. And most of the time I can walk you through it in 30 seconds on the phone. So pick up the phone and give me a call. Okay, let me put this to the side, get to the next question. Next question is, does the temperature of the solution matter? A couple things about temperature. The meter is good for measuring anything, liquids up to 140 degrees, okay? 140 degrees Fahrenheit, all right? That's, I don't know what that is in Celsius right offhand, but 140 Fahrenheit is probably about the temperature of the water at its very hottest out of a home water heater. I don't even think you can turn it up quite that high, but it's pretty hot. So most things that you're going to be testing are going to be that temperature and lower anyway. But what you don't want to do is you do not want to dip it into boiling water, for example. That would be 212 degrees Fahrenheit is boiling water. You don't want to do that. Up to 140 is fine. As far as does it affect calibration? No, because this meter, at least this is the Aero-Gro meter. I can't speak for other meters, but this meter has an auto-calibrate feature for temperature, which means that whether you're measuring something or recalibrating the meter, it automatically compensates for whatever the temperature is at the probe. So don't give it another thought. That's a done deal. It's built into the meter to compensate for temperature. Okay, next question. How can I dissolve the powders faster? I get this one a lot. So here's the deal. Definitely you want to kind of break them up with your fingers while they're in the packet first. I'll show you. And that's always a good idea because these sit sometimes for months at a time and they get kind of, caked inside the packet. So here's something you could do. This is a pro tip. My grandmother, when we were at a restaurant when I was a kid, used to take the sugar packet for her coffee and smack it on the side of the table like that, right? And that forces all the sugar, or powder in this case, down to the bottom of the packet. And then you can just rip the top off and pour it in the case of a sugar packet. In this case, another pro tip is don't rip anything. You can. There's usually a little thing there where you can tear it. Don't. Take a pair of scissors, cut it clean off the top, and pour it in. That's definitely a good idea because you get all the powder. It's nice and clean. You won't spill it. That's the way to go. Okay, so that's how you can get the powder to be most maximized and not miss anything, I guess is the bottom line of that. Let's see here. How many calibrations? Oh, wait. I skipped one. Actually, let me answer another part of that. How can I dissolve the powders faster? The other thing you can do is this. Let's say you have a gallon of distilled water and you want to warm it up a bit. Take the whole plastic jug of water, put it out in the sun for about an hour. That'll heat it up to about 110, 115 degrees, maybe even a little warmer than that. And then bring it back in and use it because it's been capped the whole time. It's still nice and clean. It's distilled water. There's nothing in it, but the sun will help to heat it up and the heat will help the powders to dissolve a bit faster. That's something you can do. All right. There's a little tip for you. Let's see here. How long does prepared solution last? Okay. Again, that really depends on how careful you are to a certain degree. So it depends is the answer here. Now, one thing I can tell you, preventing cross-contamination is the name of the game when it comes to making these solutions last longer. What that means is when you take your meter and you're dipping into each of these solutions and you're in there and you're calibrating your meter, before you move to the next solution, have a cup of clean distilled water off to the side, pretend it's this, and just give it a rinse before you move on to the next jar. Give it a rinse before you move on to the next jar. So that way you're preventing the one solution from entering into the other by sticking to the probe itself. You're rinsing it off in between dips, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So that's definitely a tip that will help a lot. The other thing I can tell you is another pro tip here. While you're using your solutions, take the cap for each and put it right behind the corresponding jar. That will ensure that, again, the liquid that's on the bottom of the cap doesn't get used on another jar and contaminate it. Keep the lids with their respective jars. This is all lab technique, by the way. We're going to call it that. All right. Keep the lid with the jar, just like that. Then you'll never get in trouble, right? And don't mix them up. Just know that that's how the system works, and then that's how the system works, right? So, okay, let me see. What else here? Dissolving the powders faster. Okay, well, obviously you can stir or you can shake. You put the lid back on and shake it a bit. You can do a number of different things, but you have to make sure that it's all physically broken up. That's why I recommend, clumps or balls of it. Take it and do that with it and get it nice and kind of broken up and then put it in the jar, and that'll go a long way. And then when it comes to stirring it, just the only thing I'm going to say is don't use a kitchen utensil like a spoon or something like that, because first of all, they're not as clean as you think usually, and you could easily contaminate with bacteria in these jars. And if they're going to be sitting for a long time, that's something you don't want. So use something clean like a brand new plastic spoon and do your stirring with that. But again, either use 3 spoons or dip the spoon in that same distilled water in between stirrings and make sure that it's clean before you move to the next, all right? So plastic is good, or those, I don't know, they're like drink stirrers or something. Those plastic stirrers you use for drinks, that would be okay. Anything like that's fine, as long as it's new and clean, or at least very, very clean. And also better not to use anything that could react with a strong acid. Like metal could react, for example. Glass will not react. Plastic will not react. Metal will react. Wood could have contaminants on it. Plastic is the way to go. Plastic's the way to go. That's why the plastic jars were chosen. Okay, same thing. So, okay, let's move on to the next question. How many calibrations between batches? Again, depends on what you're testing and how often you're testing. So if you're pushing it hard, it's not going to last as long. What kind of water do I use? Yeah, I get this one a lot. Deer Park, that's good water. Don't use this. Good. Uh-huh. You can drink it. Don't use it for this. Here's why. I don't know what the pH of that is. I have no idea. I could test it. I suppose I could find brands that are pretty neutral or whatever, but you don't want this alkaline stuff, right? Because that's going to throw off your readings. You want pure water. You want distilled water. Distilled water is just boiled water. They take the steam and they put it to the side, and all the bad stuff gets left behind, and the steam is nice and clean, and that's distilled water. That's what you want to use, because then you know that the only thing in that water is what you are adding to it, right? In this case, it's a known pH level substance, which is being added to it. But the only way that's going to stay accurate is if your water is as neutral as possible. It needs to be a blank canvas. Distilled water is the way to go. Can tap water be used? No, for the same reason. There's too much in it. You don't know the pH of it. You don't know anything about it. Don't use it. Use distilled water. Just save yourself the trouble. Go to the store. Distilled water can be found in the same aisle as your spring water and that sort of thing in gallon-sized containers. And just get yourself one. It's $1 to $2 a piece. I can't imagine it's any more than that even now. And that'll be great. You'll avoid all kinds of problems if you use distilled water. So that's the way to go. Do that. Can I use reverse osmosis? I've been asked that as well. Don't. It's not worth it. With the amount of water here, 250 milliliters in 3 jars, you buy a gallon of distilled water. If you use it for nothing else, it'll still last you like probably a year, right? There's no reason not to use distilled water. Okay, but technically, if you knew your reverse osmosis water well, and you knew that it was under 20 parts per million, and you knew the pH was neutral, fairly neutral, in a pinch, you could probably use that. But why? Don't bother with it. Just go to the store and get the distilled water. Trust me. Just get the distilled water. I answer these questions honestly, but I still want you to do a certain thing. All right. Okay, here. Let's see. Can I use that? Tap water. Just answered that. How do I know if the solution is too old? Oh, okay. Here's a good test. If your solution has been sitting for, let's say, and we're talking a long time, like let's say 3 or 6 months, right? It can happen, and I've had this happen, where you go, you grab your jar, you hold it up to the light, and there are floaties in it, like kind of furry balls, and the fuzzy balls floating in the solution. And it's really nasty looking. And that's just from some sort of bacteria, whatever wee beastie got in that jar and sat there thinking about life for 3 to 6 months and decided to have a family. And now you've got a colony. And so at that point, you just got to throw it out, clean out the jar, and start over with a new batch of solution. Now, that leads me to when you are cleaning your jars, what you do not want to do is put them in the dishwasher. Again, this polyethylene phthalate, there it is a thermoplastic, and in the dishwasher, it will melt. So what you do, rinse it under clean water and rinse it really well under the distilled water as well. Take the distilled water, pour it in there, swish it around, and dump it out. And then take your microfiber cloth, the same one you'd use to clean your car, or you'd use to clean the lenses. Whoops. Sorry. Clean the lenses of your glasses. It's the same sort of cloth you would use to clean and dry your jars. And also the same sort that you'd use to wipe down, for example, electronics and things like that. They're very delicate surfaces. That's what you want to use on these, because they will stay optically clear and beautiful if you treat them well, if you only expose them to either the solutions or distilled water, and if you dry them well using microfiber towels. There you go. Let's see here. So the floaties are bad. If it's floaties, throw it out. Can I buy just the powders? Yes, you can buy just the powders without the rest of the kit on the website. And when you do, there are some options there as far as the number of packets that you want to buy to replace them. And if you have any trouble with that, by the way, and this goes for anything, if you ever have trouble with anything on the website, my phone number is plastered all over the place. Just give me a call. Usually it's something technical wrong with the website, and I can either walk you through it or I can get my person to fix it or whatever. But yeah, do let me know, because if you don't let me know, how do I know? I'm just one guy. I'm running this whole thing. Okay. Appreciate your help. All right. Let's see here. Now for the tips. Yeah. Okay. Tip number 1 was dip the probe in distilled water in between dips and also after usage. So every time when you're using the meter to test something, your pool, your spa, your wine, your beer, whatever it is you're testing, hydroponics, or give it a rinse in some distilled water or something really, really clean. You've got your deionized water as well as an option, but I didn't really want to get into that. You can buy deionized water, but it's very expensive and it's kind of overkill for our purposes. But call it distilled. Use distilled water, rinse off your probe, and that will extend the length of time between recalibrations. So you just need to keep that clean. Now, that being said, another thing you do not want to do is you do not want to get your cloth in there on the probe and start digging around and cleaning it. That's going to mess up the probe. Don't do it. If you really want to get that probe clean, super clean, because it's got food on it or whatever it is, there is a solution. It's probe cleaning solution. I'll provide a link below. And that from Amazon will clean the probe. What you do is you just take the cap off and you put it in a small amount of that solution. You let it sit for a length of time. Usually it's like 12 hours, 24 hours you let it sit. And then your probe's totally clean. And then you put it back with the cap on and you don't have to worry about it. If you don't, if the probe is dirty with food and whatever, and you put the cap back on, you know what comes next. I mean, it sits and then it gets really nasty. So make sure that that gets nice and clean, because that will keep it definitely working better for you long term. All right. Next tip. It did cover that. Heat the distilled water by putting the whole jug of water out in the sun for about an hour. That'll bring it up to 110, 115. That's a way to get it to go faster. That was another tip. We covered the opening packets by smacking them, stirring the solution using a plastic spoon. And oh yeah, here's another thing. One of the tips: make sure that this foam cap liner stays in place. They have a tendency to want to fall out, especially when you're cleaning anything, cleaning the lids, cleaning the jars. They do sometimes pop out. These newer jars with the black caps, I found they're staying in a little bit better. I might just stick with these from now on. But yeah, just be aware of that, because I have seen them pop out during use. And you don't want that. No pop outs. Okay, anything else here? No, I guess that's about it. Okay, so what you have here is a kit that will last you a really long time if you take good care of it and clean these appropriate and keep them in kind of a dark place. That helps too. Keep it in the dark and someplace cool, relatively cool, in a cabinet deep in the kitchen or something will be fine. And that's how you want to store them, right? And, all the same rules for the jars apply to the beaker. Keep it nice and clean in between uses. Rinse it with distilled water and then dry it with the microfiber towel and then store it. Even store it in the same box. Nice box. And there you go. That's it. I don't think there's anything else. But listen, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. Again, 610-657-8800. 610-657-8800. Give me a call, and I'm sure I can walk you right through it. I want to thank you for your visits. I want to thank you for choosing Aero-Gro, and thank you for calibrating your meter the right way. Thanks. Catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Take care.